But I want to loop it back to what James was saying. James was saying we're optimistic, or he's optimistic. I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
I take a look at the declining ratings of these institutions. I take a look at, we have the story actually from the Post Millennial. Red wave poll shows dramatic shift in party preference from Democrat to Republican at the end of 2021. So this is from Gallup, one of the most credible polling institutions, so they say. And we can see that around the third quarter, there was a big decline and a shift occurring. And by quarter 4 of 2021, Republican identification outweighed Democrat by 5 points. This is for the first time in a couple, like 20 years, maybe. There was a period, I think, in like 2010s where it was fairly even, but we haven't seen this pronounced of a flip since like 91. Now, I don't think Republicans are necessarily the answer. I think voting in the primaries and voting for people who care about this country is the answer. But the fact that people are breaking away from the establishment narratives, from declining ratings to party shift, I think matters. I think it's grounds for optimism, right?
Well, I keep on plugging my book, but the second book you should reread every year is 1984, which is the year I was born.
Oh, boy.
And in this book, Winston,
the
protagonist, Winston, 1984, says the party is a metaphor for what we're talking about, tells you to reject the evidence of your own eyes and ears. Winston said, it is the final, most essential commandment. It is the number one rule. Don't trust your own eyes and ears. But the moment propaganda becomes apparent, it loses its effect. And I think what's happening right now is people are starting to wake up. And Luke, I think you're right. I think they're losing like what do you call it? A dog that was, an animal that was caged or something. I like that metaphor. A trapped animal.
And I think this is also why in 1984 they made them repeat 2 + 2 = 5, because it's nonsensical and they couldn't have common sense. They couldn't have rational debate and discussion. They needed to, of course, obey the state and the controllers at all costs.
It's the Emanuel Goldstein manual, 1984. It requires a moment-to-moment flexibility in the treatment of facts. So that scene you're talking about where they're torturing Winston, 2 + 2 is 5, and Winston's like, well,
spoiler alert for people.
Sorry, in case you haven't read it since high school. And he's like, I don't understand. 2 + 2 = 4. And it says, and finally Winston, because he's being tortured, he says, well, 2 + 2 is whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
But I feel like
there are 4 lights.
I feel like
yes,
this is America. Damn it, this is America, and I think we're different than any other country in the history of the world. I just don't think I'm hopeful because I think people understand what's happening. What the danger, Tim, is that most people are afraid, and that pension, mortgage, kids. Well, good luck to your kids, because we don't change this. Maybe your kids will be holding bayonets, or whatever the modern equivalent of a bayonet will be. So we better give up our pensions and our mortgages. There's more to life than my mortgage. You got to blow the whistle.
But it's really, it's very difficult when you have so much to lose.
What's the point of living?
What's the point of living?
What's the point of life? This
is the question. What's the meaning of life?
Absolutely, this is the question.
Well, I don't think there's an answer to what is the meaning of life.
No. My question's, you posed a rhetorical question to me, and my answer is, I posed a rhetorical question to you.
Right.
What's the point of life if without meaning? The pursuit of happiness. Well, there's also the pursuit of meaning.
Sure.
And the excuse that we're giving is we're following orders. There's 120,000
What
people.
I'm saying is, if you have people who have a family and they have a home and they want to protect those things,
right,
they're going to go to great lengths to protect those things. They're not going to give them up until they're forced to.
I disagree.
If you can get dinner on the table and you can go to your job, you're going to do those things. That's what people do.
What if you're being asked to do unconstitutional legal things?
Well, then we see people start to give those things up when they have to.
That's
a different point for everybody, isn't it?
When there is you live in a house and you're surrounded by a wooded area and there is a fire on the horizon, you have people saying, well, I think if we just sit around and do nothing, the fire eventually won't hit us and we'll get lucky. And it's like, or you can take action now, get your family out before the fire destroys your home. What we're seeing right now is that people aren't willing to go to great lengths to protect their friends and family or their children, to make sure there's food on the table. They're looking at short-term gains and long-term losses. So the reason I use the forest fire analogy is that
this is like Chekhov with the trees.
It's off in the distance. Mm-hmm. Okay, the fire's not here right now.
Why did the peasants
I
keep
know
cutting down
there's
the
a
forest?
fire. I know there's a fire. I know it is destroying people's homes. I know my neighbors have lost everything, but I'll be fine. I'm sure of it.
Right.
They think if they keep their head down,
This
the
is
mob
what
won't come to their house.
Solzhenitsyn describes in the Gulag Archipelago: to survive at any price. And to survive at any price is the danger, because if you continue down this road, I like your analogy of long term, you're going to live in a society which is permanently corrupted, where the lie becomes a permanent form of existence, and you have to sell out your own family to not go to the gulags, so
James,
to speak.
when you're breaking rocks in the gulags, there's going to be a guy 10 years older, and he's going to go, "Hey, James, I ever tell you about how my kid played soccer?" And you're going to be like, "Oh yeah." that was back
My
in the
worst
day,
part
huh?"
about the gulags is the inevitable hunger strike, because I like to eat. I get hangry. But this is a serious point, because I want to go back to this point which you and I disagree with, because this is the issue at hand.
I'm not defending people for not wanting to fight. I'm
Yeah.
saying people don't want to fight. Right, we have
I'm
a
not
very
asking everyone.
comfortable-
So
we have a very
this is
comfortable
this is
culture
my
for the
my
most part.
Martin Luther
And
moment.
Maybe we are at a breaking point here.
Yeah, this is my Martin Luther moment. This is the issue at hand. What we're talking
You're
about.
nailing stuff on the door
That's
right now.
it.
Okay.
Right now, here I stand. I can do no other. What we're talking about, you and I, in this moment, that's everything. I have people who have families who are making money for Facebook, Pinterest. They gave it all up for the public's right to know, and they did so as a leap of faith. And the American people protected them. The HHS whistleblower Jody, she raised $500,000 after she gave up her job for filming stuff in the emergency room. Zach at Google, Eric Cochran at Pinterest said, "I'll fall to ashes one day. I want my life to mean something after I'm gone." Those are his words, not mine.
Sure. I mean, I lost everything because I wrote the truth, right?
Right.
This happened to me too.
And we need more
this
people
kind
to
of
do
thing
this.
happens to Andy all the time.
And we need more people
Yes,
to do this.
we need to speak up for that, but we also need to understand and not condemn the people, I think, who don't do it. I think we need to understand those people.
But we should encourage them at the same time as we understand them
We
and let
should
them
all
know.
speak up and speak the truth at once,
but we
because
need to
there's
let them
too
know
many of us to be destroyed.
Their acquiescence, their compliance is literally leading us down
I'm
this
sorry,
pathway to
I
this
profoundly
to this hellscape.
disagree with you. There is literally, as I speak, thousands of DMs every day. What can I do? Help me. I want to help. I want to make a sacrifice.
Well,
Good.
Good.
So we need to create a mass movement of those people. We need to give them an opportunity to fight. People want to fight in this country. They don't know what to do. They want to do something. But I think with 120,000 people, the DOJ, Tim, there's got to be one or two.
Right.
I just need one or two. Maybe I already have them. But I mean, I need one or two more. There's got to be, okay, we're following orders. I get it. You have your mortgage to pay. But I don't know.
I was watching this video.
I'm just saying,
about clowns,
if we can be sympathetic
pronouns.
to those people,
I'm
maybe
sorry.
there's a way to help them in that.
You're talking to a man who's been put in handcuffs twice by the FBI for a crime I didn't commit.
Right.
And I would like to believe that half the people in my apartment actually were not bad people at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're very good people. I just think we're entering a slippery slope, and we have to encourage people to do the right thing. And it will involve, without question, it will involve sacrifice and suffering. It just will.
Now you sound
Yeah.
like Dr. Peterson.
Well, the police officers and FBI agents that arrested
who I
and
adore.
went after
I have
James.
the utmost respect for you and
Well,
for
I'm
Dr.
sitting next to
Peterson.
a man who got thrown concrete milkshakes. You know, he got physically assaulted for what he went through.
My only point was to have empathy for the people who are terrified of losing everything.
But those
That's
people
all.
make-
How
but
does
tho-
that
but hold
affect?
on.
How does that affect the actual actions that we're going to take?
How does empathy affect the
Yes.
actions that we're going to take?
Yes.
I don't think condemning people gets them on your side.
Have I done that?
I didn't say that you did.
Okay.
I
I'm
did not.
I'm
I
not.
didn't
I'm
say
not
that you did.
condemning anybody. We need to create a forum for people to come forward. We have to do
Yes,
that.
we should all be encouraged. We should be encouraging each other to speak the truth and to not be cowed by this nonsense anymore.
That's
I
right.
thoroughly agree with you on that.
But the people arresting James and the FBI agents that went after him are making those excuses. We need to pay the mortgage. We need to pay the bills. We need to make sure that my kids are taken care of. Those are the same kind of arguments that I've heard made by corporate journalists saying, hey, I just got to read this script. I just got to do what they tell me to do because at the end of the day, I got to take care of myself.
That's not what I'm defending.
But
at
there's
all.
a lot of people who
all I
use
was,
that kind of
like, I was
justification,
responding
even in the
to,
White House
you
press
have to
corps,
give up your pension.
that I personally
was
know.
responding to
Yeah.
you have to give up
I
your
think
pension.
0.001% of people need to give up their pension. Yes.
Man, could you imagine if
I
just
think you're
a
probably right about
thousand-
that.
Yeah, 1,000 people in one of these
That's quite a bit of
organizations just came out and said, we're willing to sacrifice our pensions? Well, then none of them would. If every single person at any of these corrupt institutions If they all just said, we hereby all agree we have scruples and won't do these illegal things, it wouldn't happen in the first place.
I agree with that.
You're faced with two choices. You can follow your conscience, or you can, and then you will lose your livelihood. Or you could not follow your conscience and have a safe existence.
My view, on life growing up was never based on tribalism, and I think that's what shapes my perspective today. Is that there was no group I identified with. There was nothing I saw that I said I need to be a part of. It was actually, my whole life was, if I don't figure it out for myself, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Too many people today are wrapped up in just trying to fit in with whatever tribe they think will keep them alive, right? We see with Ethan Klein. He's the H3 podcast guy. He deletes the Jordan Peterson interviews. Why?
That's such a trash move.
But it's because, in my opinion, if you look at his Instagram, he said, YouTube gave me a strike. I can't work for a week because someone went to an old video and flagged it and got it removed. Here's a guy who's got he's got a company of 10 people. He's got a 10 million subscribers. And because of the rule changes, he's getting banned. So what does he do? He says, I'm just going to adhere to whatever they tell me to do.
Yeah.
And he deletes the Jordan
I'm going to
Peterson
say
episode.
that 2 + 2 = 5 because I don't want the rat to eat my face.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's what Orwell was a genius. I mean,
Room 101.
Room 101.
Yep.
Room 101. I don't know what your psychological version of the rat. Everyone's got their fears, but this is a slippery slope. And I don't know. I'm just quoting our whistleblowers that come to us. All of these people. These are not my words. They're saying, listen, I want my life to mean something. And I guess it is akin to what Jordan Peterson talks about.
Wasps.
Wasps?
Yeah,
Wasps?
if the establishment came to my house and unloaded wasps into my house, the show would be off the air.
Don't say that. Don't say he's just making a joke, people. It's not your actual.
Don't give him ideas, Tim.
Don't tell him your fear.
They're like, Tim doesn't actually scare cancellation. Put some wasps in his building.
I don't
We're
know.
like, oh, there's wasps everywhere.
You weren't afraid of the stink bugs. So
No, this thing, I'm actually not scared of wasps.
I don't think that could get you
In
anyway.
1984, the state knew your biggest fear, and for Winston, it was the fear of rats, and that's why they put a bucket with a rat in it, and it said the rat's going to eat your face unless you obey the state. So this is, again, the dangers of the track, trace, and database society, the society that has the NSA snooping on every aspect of our existence, and it's not out of the realm of possibility to compare our current reality going towards a 1984 one,
it was
which
interesting.
James brings up all the time, which is on the money.
The vaccine database thing. So in April, Jeff Zients at the CDC said that there was going to be no federal vaccine database. Jen Psaki said there was going to be no federal vaccine credential. And it actually turns out that after the OSHA mandate went through for federal workers, this safety guidelines agency said, help federal agencies implement the vaccine mandate. They said, and you will have to keep a database of who's been vaccinated and who isn't, and the reasons for why the people didn't get vaccinated, specifically religious exemptions.
Yeah.
So it turns out that the OSHA mandate supersedes everything else for federal workers, and there will be a bunch of different federal vaccine databases for the employees at all of these agencies.
And I think I think it's very likely it will happen.
Yes,
Right?
I think so.
Short of us actually speaking out and people who watch the show, share this show, talk about these ideas, stand up for yourself. And I think more and more people are doing that. If they don't, the Supreme Court may strike down mandates for private companies, but give it 5 years and it will be commonplace unless you speak up now.
Charles Murray said that government is in an advanced state of sclerosis where solutions are outside the legislative process and the courts. I think what we've experienced with the New York Times lawsuit is on point. I mean, even if the Supreme Court were to rule in my favor, the New York Times would say, Trump judge.
Right.
Trump judge. Who cares? We don't care. We're doing,
But does it matter to you?
Does
Obviously, winning against the New York Times is very important. They defamed you. They caused you problems and money. But for the snooty elites in their ivory tower with their wine, you'll never convince them, right?
literally, Dean Baquet had a glass of Chardonnay in Pittsburgh with his turtleneck and blazer.
Was it Dom?
I went
That's
to shake.
Chardonnay. Oh, no,
So
that's not
there's a
Chardonnay,
story in
Champagne.
this book. I saw Dean Baquet, New York Times, Pittsburgh. I was at literally the proverbial seat at the table. I was sitting next to Marty Baron and Dean Baquet too, and I went to shake his hand. And you would think, why would you want to shake this horrible? Well, maybe there's a moment of humanity. Maybe he has a moment of levity. No. He whimpered and winced like a little coward.
He wouldn't shake your hand?
He wouldn't shake. He turned around towards the wall while holding, I'm not making this up, a glass of wine.
Wow.
And at that moment, I realized that yeah, you asked a question. It's not the satisfaction from the verdict. The satisfaction comes in the discovery part of litigation where you're exposing them.
Proving how they're lying.
The only thing that, for lack of a better word, the only thing that communists fear is being exposed. They do not fear the government. In my experience, they don't fear the courts. They don't fear. The only thing that will hold them accountable is exposure. And I think litigation does that vis-a-vis the discovery process. When you open up their books, when you record them in depositions, et cetera, et cetera.
Also, when you guys take a microphone and put it up to their face and they start running away as
They
fast
don't
as they can.
Did you ever notice-
That's also a good
Did you
one.
ever notice that they don't want to engage
Yep.
us in conversation? They want us to shut up. I want them to talk. Interesting dichotomy.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I see this with in the movie Don't Look Up. Have you seen it?
This
No.
is that Netflix movie.
Yeah. One of the scenes, it's basically in the movie, the Republican Party is telling all of their, right-wing nut jobs not to look up at the sky where the comet is coming to destroy the planet. So they don't. And I'm watching that and I'm like, I think the movie's funny. It's poking fun at everybody. But the Republicans, the conservatives, are the meme of debate me. It's Ben Shapiro chasing after AOC being like, why won't you debate me? While the left says, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. If anyone is telling you not to look up, it's CNN.
Right.
Not the right. The right's demanding you look up.
And the Biden administration as well, that's saying that we need to stop disinformation, but they don't take any questions from reporters. And Dr. Fauci, who today on the World Economic Forum Zoom call was literally saying we need to fight disinformation for, quote, medical health, alongside, of course, Xi Jinping, who also was on the Zoom call as well.
That goes
Well,
back.
and they only identified disinformation and misinformation as anything that goes against whatever the current narrative is, which is consistently changing.
It goes back to the moment-to-moment flexibility in the treatment of facts. We talk about engaging in conversation. I tell my staff, we welcome the inspectors. That might sound counterintuitive. You're an undercover operation. You have to keep secrets. We don't keep many secrets, Tim. I tell everything you do is going to be watched. The New York Times is required by their ethical code to reach out for comment. They do that via email, but they'll never print my response. And when I try to call them, they hang up the phone.
They do this clever thing where if your quote hurts you, it's in full. If
Right.
your quote helps you, they'll snip it or paraphrase.
Yep.
One such comment was, please respond, all these things. So I quoted the judge in the defamation lawsuit. The New York Times acted in disinformation and deception. I quoted a judge. And the New York Times published, when asked for a comment, Mr. O'Keefe criticized the New York Times. Well, I didn't criticize the New York Times. I was quoting a judicial authority. So
That's false, a statement of fact, isn't it?
It is, and we sued them for defamation, and we're winning. So now we just put out our quotes to the New York Times to our audience. We just film myself emailing the New York Times. I think your audience wants solutions. I think we know they chop the quotes, they take it out of context.
Solution.
I had Robert Silverman, who's this hack reporter at Daily Beast. He reached out to me, I think around midnight Eastern time, and said he was trying to get comment. He said, "I'll give you until 12:30 a.m. to respond." This is how entitled some of them feel. Like they're doing you the favor. They're writing a hit piece.
Yeah.
They contact you at the last hour. And then, most people are sleeping at that time or not checking their email. And then, then your comment never makes it into the published story.
Andy, I was going to ask you, how do you deal with the media coverage that you get dealt with? Do you have any kind of legal battles, or what's your strategy when it comes to dealing with the media that attacks you?
Well, I've come to, like James, ignore most of it. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources to do lawsuits against everybody who defames me. And in the U.S., proving defamation in a court when you're a public figure is extremely hard. And so the point of these negative pieces is to sabotage and ruin someone's reputation, and also to demoralize them and to take up their time. I think it's been more effective for me to ignore most of it. When it's really egregious, then I'll respond. I think so recently in December, a few weeks ago, I got an email at night from a journalist asking me for comment about this federal lawsuit that was filed against me for a copyright violation. That was the first I've heard of it. So these two Antifa activists, extremists in Portland, sued me for retweeting their videos on Twitter. Okay? Completely frivolous lawsuit. But the point wasn't necessarily about winning. It was about getting all of these negative pieces out that said, Andy Ngo sued in federal court for stealing journalist content. That's really damning for, I mean, if you're a journalist, your reputation really matters. By the way, there's only, as much as I say, I ignore this, ignore that, reputation at the end of the day matters when you're a journalist, because your reputation is your legitimacy. That's how people know that what you're reporting out is accurate. They can trust it. And within less than 2 weeks, the lawsuit was withdrawn. So by then, those left-wing media sites are not going to write these new follow-up stories about how this was a frivolous lawsuit that was a waste of everyone's time. But on the record, now people Google me again. In addition to all the hit pieces before, they see stuff like this.
And now it's forever that even though the lawsuit's gone, they can still say Andy Ngo has been sued for stealing content in the past, and it'll be forever. But I do have to issue a very strong correction. You see, I stated on this show that lawsuit would be dismissed in summary judgment, and I was wrong. They withdrew it because it was a frivolous lawsuit, so it didn't even make it that far. But again, it's the smear that counts, and that's what they were going for, at least in my opinion, right?
Well, the object of persecution is persecution, is to break your will. That's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to. It's usually these litigation is an exercise in just trying to shut you up, break your will, bankrupt you, etc.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.